Hi, everybody. My name is Will Pangman. Welcome to the LEXIT Founder Series. This is a series of interviews we're going to be doing with a number of entrepreneurs from the crypto blockchain industry and the tech industry at large regarding the perils and triumphs of the mergers and acquisitions process, the lifespan of a company, what it goes through as an entrepreneur seeks an exit for their project. It can be a very trying time for anyone, and I think it's great to hear from a number of magnates in our industry about how they've navigated this field as well. So today we're here with Jaron Lukasiewicz. Jaron is a former CEO of Coinsetter, one of the first Bitcoin exchanges in the US, and he dealt with the things like BitLicense. He's had a number of other ventures he's involved with as well, including partnerships and advisorships in the crypto space and beyond. And I'll let Jaron introduce those to you and the rest of what he's up to in the crypto space. Jaron, go ahead.
Hey, Will, good to be here with you. Like you said, I originally entered the space in 2012 and was really focused at the time on starting a very reputable exchange. A lot of people may not realize it, but back then, most companies that were operating in the Bitcoin space, like the management team didn't even reveal who they were on the website or anywhere. And so the space has, obviously grown a lot in what I would even say in like very positive ways since then. I started an exchange in 2012, moved to New York City to run that. In the process, we acquired the largest exchange in Canada as well, and we sold both of them to Kraken in 2016. Since then, because of what I had done in the space, a number of companies doing ICOs primarily approached me about advising their company through the ICO. So that's become a very big thing that I am deeply active in. I advised several companies last year that did $30 million plus ICOs. This year, I'm advising several more. And, what it really excites me about the space right now, maybe versus how it used to be, is just the diversity of types of ideas that we're seeing today and the quality of management teams that are emerging. I know especially this year, 2018, we're starting to see, I think, really legitimate entrepreneurs starting to look at ICOs as a way to finance a really big idea. And that's what we have right now, is this opportunity to finance ideas that might not get funded in the traditional venture capital community, and fund them so well that they have a very high chance of success. I am particularly interested in a lot of the technologies around decentralized cloud computing that have emerged. I'm getting deeply involved with a company doing decentralized voting. And of course, there's LEXIT, which I'm advising. And I love this company in particular because I think that it's solving a pain point in the M&A industry, and more specifically a pain point that startups and other companies who are looking to sell have.
Excellent. Yeah, your CV is impressive, and I've known you for a couple of years, and I've seen you operate and been through some of these trials and tribulations. You've been involved with several M&A processes in various ways. I guess tell us a bit about what an M&A normally entails, and what are the problems that a aspiring entrepreneur or a novice entrepreneur normally would face when entering the M&A process?
Well, the most challenging part of selling your company is finding a buyer. And to the extent that you find a buyer, selling at a price that you're willing to sell at. And depending on your leverage, depending on all these different, the buyer's ability to, fund the purchase, a lot of challenges pop up along the way. So, what I've always found is while you're running your company, you want to be running it in a way that would make it very desirable if you're going to sell it. So if you've been running your company in a way where you've been packaging everything up, knowing that someday somebody's going to be digging through these files and looking at everything, what are the things I'm missing? Always thinking about that. If you're constantly doing that, when you get to the point where you're actually looking to sell your company, you've already done 99% of the work. Now all you maybe need to do is put together a new pitch deck, which you probably already have a pitch deck from your VC rounds or your ICO, and just reformulating that into something that's got a slightly different message for your new goal, company goal, which is selling. And after that, I think the next thing is really coming up with a list of very qualified potential buyers. And it's really a numbers game. So although I'll caveat that with saying building relationships with potential buyers is even more important. So you can have potential buyers. Someone might come through, but I found, especially in our Coinsetter sale, that the companies that took the deepest look on our company were those who I already had built relationships with. So, that's really number one, is just building the relationships, making sure that you're going to have a diversified base of potential buyers. And then from there, it's looking at what's your leverage, and looking at your leverage, depending on the type of transaction you're looking to do. If it's a private transaction, you want to be positioning your company as something that is hot, really, something that other people want as well. For
Right.
a company that now, I think one way that LEXIT brings an interesting alternative to that process is really through getting multiple buyers in a very public way. There's no question that your company, provided that you've done everything right previously. I mean, if your company's garbage, it's not going to sell anyway. But if you have built good technology, like a lot of startups run into this problem. They've built great technology, but they don't know how to sell it, and they should be compensated for it. So if you can provide an environment like LEXIT does, where a lot of companies can come together, look at a project, and know that it's a competitive kind of bidding process to actually win or get win the acquisition. It provides a whole new mechanism that can create the kind of leverage that maybe a lot of entrepreneurs have when they're trying to sell their company.
So I guess one other interesting thing I think might be great to hear from you is, did anything come up during the process of exiting your projects that surprised you? And what would you think would be something that would surprise most entrepreneurs approaching a merger acquisition?
Definitely. I mean, renegotiations are pretty common. So you think that you're selling a deal for X price and X other kind of elements that are part of the terms, and you enter, oftentimes in a negotiation, you enter a phase of not having leverage. So once you've agreed that you're not going to talk to any more parties, that gives a whole lot of leverage to the other side. So renegotiations are very common, and kind of navigating your way through not giving in to everything is a big challenge. The I think other ones that are really might be a surprise to entrepreneurs are just like how difficult it is to sell your company. It really is challenging. Most companies don't end up selling themselves. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs have already moved on to the next thing. So when you're in that process of selling, and especially, for those startups where maybe things aren't going so well, the entrepreneurs are oftentimes like already on to the next thing. They've learned their lessons from this one. They're done. That's why they're selling. So, so keeping your mind in the game to make sure that you do sell it. I think one thing that helps some entrepreneurs, I know, I cared a lot about this in always is, if you have investors, you always want to be looking out for their best interests. So their best interests are often aligned with yours, at least to some extent. And I think that, that's just like an incredibly important element for any entrepreneur to keep in mind. I have to believe that most entrepreneurs feel that way naturally. I know for a fact not all do, but the more, whether it's by nature or pushing yourself, like I think giving it just a little bit extra time and allowing yourself to really force yourself to do a good job on the sell, getting as many potential buyers in the door as possible, making sure that everything is kind of presented in a way that is presentable. I think that that's just incredibly important.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the biggest surprises for new entrepreneurs approaching a merger or acquisition would be how difficult it actually is. So there's a number of difficulties that spring to my mind, like how do you get the value that you believe as an entrepreneur your intellectual property has, for example. So valuing IP, not let alone trading IP. And I guess, if some of these problems can be solved, then these difficulties can be made less so. Tell us what, in your opinion, how you think the market benefits if some of these problems can be solved. And how do you imagine the world would be different if code snippets and IP or pivoted projects could be more easily traded?
Yeah, I mean that's a big one right there. Especially when tech companies are selling themselves, their most important or most valuable asset is their IP. And one thing that can be very challenging is actually like getting a look at the IP. So you usually like don't end up in a negotiation as your first step being I just looked at the IP. It's more like you kind of know what they do. You start talking about terms, and then you start turning to, okay, let's take a look at your IP. Well, that whole process is not very transparent today. It takes a long time. So to have a platform that can kind of accelerate that process of being able to, quickly get in the data room and quickly, review what's been built so that you can make a legitimate offer, can save a lot of time. And also provide a level of transparency when you know that all of the other companies that are also possibly going to compete against you in the acquisition process are also having access to this information. It does create a more level playing field for all of the participants involved.
Those are some big challenges. So if LEXIT can solve that problem, that would be pretty massive, it would seem to me. Facilitating M&A period in a digital way, I think, is a huge challenge. And it seems that, the role of blockchain comes in here pretty heavily. I think a marketplace platform, blockchain enabled, these kinds of things, and of course with, trying to trade things like IP or code snippets and things like this. So what do you see as the role of blockchain in all of this? And I guess, how does a project like LEXIT make the big difference?
I think there are two elements where blockchain is especially valuable in a platform like LEXIT's. The first is being able to build a community of people just through the ICO process, being able to build a community of people who are supporters of your project, who are getting the word out. Even if someone has $100 of LEXIT's tokens, they now always have in the back of their mind this idea that, hey, like, what's it to me? Might as well just tell someone to check it out. So you're building a huge base of supporters that will hopefully recommend your platform to others who might be in need of it. The other element that where blockchain can be especially valuable here is really in the M&A process itself, and creating a level of transparency, legitimacy. One thing that blockchains are especially good at is being immutable, or you would at least hope that the blockchain you're using has that quality to it. And clearly I joke a little bit there, but that's the case with LEXIT. They built this highly transparent M&A platform that you really can't achieve without blockchain technology, because blockchain is the only technology that's been created that you can really place that kind of confidence in, that data is immutable, that records are transparent, etc.
Absolutely, and the cryptographic token to break apart the ownership of some of these business assets will be important too. I think there's some partnerships in LEXIT's near future to be announced that will bring some clarity around that process as well. Just to wrap things up, thanks Jaron for your time. Why don't you just share with our audience, what attracted you to LEXIT? Why are you involved? Why are you excited about the project? And we can say ta-ta after that.
Like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of companies that are coming out doing ICOs, especially this year, that have really attracted great management teams that, experienced management teams in particular. And LEXIT is one of those projects, in my view. I was especially attracted to it because of my background in M&A and the fact that I've done capital raising and M&A for every company I've been involved with. So, I'm pretty intimately knowledgeable and aware of the process and some of the problems that come up in the process. And I also personally have used, to some extent, like little online like company listing websites. So, but they're always very local. They're, people sell their restaurant or laundromat on it. But these websites are very useful and highly used. So I saw LEXIT as filling a very similar need, but for a whole different type of company, which I believe will tend to be technology companies in the early stage anyway. So it was just very easy for me to envision it having a good chance of success. So, and it was an area that, I had a particular interest in. So this was an easy project for me to get excited about.
Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, hopefully the same is true for those of you watching out there. If you want to learn more about LEXIT, please go to lexit.co and you can read the documentation there and get involved in the community. Thanks again to Jaron for joining us for the first episode of the LEXIT Founder Series. So thank you, Jaron, for sharing all your thoughts with us, and sure the project is very proud of having you aboard. So thanks again.
Thanks. It was great to be here.